As you watch the screen, your heart begins to beat faster. There's a fluttering in the pit of your stomach. Your throat is dry. Your palms damp. Suddenly a chill runs down your spine. You clutch the person next to you. You tell yourself, it's only a movie. It's only a movie. But sooner or later, it's time to go home.
Welcome to Film Strip. I'm Jay.
And I'm Brian.
This is our review of Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare, starring Lisa Zane, Sean Greenblatt, Leslie Dean, Breckin Meyer, Ricky Dean Logan, Yaphet Kotto, Tom Arnold, Roseanne Barr, and Robert Englund. Directed by Rachel Talalay, released in 1991 on a budget of $5 million. Well, they went all out for this one. Grossed $34.8 million at the box office.
Is it just me, Jay, or do these numbers seem underwhelming to you?
It's a little bit. Yeah.
Well, I mean, and these were successes, so it just goes to tell you what a success nowadays is versus what a success it was back then.
I know, right? Like, every movie now, Blumhouse does movies for this cheap and makes, these huge box offices like, $80 million and stuff off of 2 and stuff like that. But most of your big studio horror movies, and there aren't many of those around anymore, but if there is one, you're talking $10, $12 million, and if they got 34 out of it, holy cow, they'd be losing their minds. You got to get 100 on the first weekend or you're a loser. We've come a real different way in Hollywood. But you know what? That's the funny thing. You mentioned that New Line as a studio was the studio Freddy had built. Because not only off the box office, all the merchandising, and they had the freaking Freddy TV show at this point, and you had everything going on.
Freddy masks up the wazoo.
Yes, you had all the home video revenue, which was a new stream for everybody, and they were cashing into that. New Line as a studio was the house Freddy built, and they would just put out a Nightmare on Elm Street film 5 and 6 happened essentially just because they needed some more money. But they decided with this one, this was it. It's rare. Usually it's like somebody else along the way says, we got to kill this off. The studio eventually will get done with it. Like, we've been talking about it over on the Friday the 13th podcast with Ron. At part 8, Paramount was like, we're done. And that's when New Line bought it and promptly sank the Jason franchise for a decade and a half because they only got 2 movies out of it. But really, the original filmmakers were done with that one after part 4, and then Paramount came back and said, "No, we need more," and they did 5, 6, 7, and 8 of Jason. In the process, of course, all these Freddy films have come out, but you got to think about it from New Line's point of view. They did 6 Freddy films in 7 years. That is crazy, town.
That's a lot of Freddy.
Yeah, Robert Englund is so done with it at this point, and everybody is, and it's so funny.
I don't know.
Well, he was done with it at this point. When they were making this in 1990, he was really happy that this was going to be it. And they made no bones about it whatsoever. Talk about a spoiler warning in the title. We're like, we're going to friggin' kill him off, and they're going to go all out. There's all this talk about there's this 3D ending and all this stuff. And now, at this point with horror films for me, I was kind of out of my phase with them, because there'd been 2 Halloween films that I had been able to catch out at that point, 4 and 5, and then there wasn't another one until 1995. So I was just, if I watched a horror movie, I was watching that. I wasn't watching the Freddy movies at this point, so I don't remember when this came out. I remember seeing it on the rental shelf, and I never bothered to watch it. In fact, I did not see this until many years later when I bought the box set. And I bought the box set, gosh, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, I guess it's been now. And it was the first time I'd ever watched it, was then. And I got my 3D glasses out and I watched the sequence in 3D once. I didn't do it for this review. And wasn't worth it.
I saw it one time as well.
Yeah, it's one of those things.
That's enough.
Yeah, it's like see it once and then you're kind of done. I don't need to see that again. But I didn't remember much about this one. I've been surprised at how favorable we have found these films to be. I really thought we would have gotten the fork and knife out at this point with Freddy, because most people have. Like, most people will, a lot of people like 4. Most people hate 5. We both kind of liked 5. I particularly thought it was pretty smart, but they ditched all of that because that was not a success in comparison to the franchise. So they decided they're going to kill it off here. And I'm going to tell you, Brian, I was real curious to see how I would feel about this one coming back, because I've never had good vibes for this film ever before watching it. I've seen it maybe 3 times before we reviewed it here.
Okay, well, I'm curious to see how we go about this one as well, because I think I've only seen this one maybe 2 or 3 times ever, because we've gone through the Freddy series, my wife and I, multiple times. So probably about 3 times I've seen it before this. So I remember a lot of it when it happened, and both Holly and I, my wife, we did a lot of talking as we were watching this one. Oh, I remember this part. Yeah, okay. So
yeah.
It came back real fast.
Yeah, my wife had never seen this one before. She watched it with me as well. And, well, I'll tell you when her comments come in, because they are kind of hilarious. And, there was a point in this when I just stopped taking notes and I just started letting the film absorb or whatever into me. And maybe that's good, maybe that's bad. We'll get into it. But, I mean,
believe it or not,
yeah.
I actually took notes the whole movie, this one.
Well, good, because maybe you can keep us on track.
And I hadn't before, yeah.
Yeah, then it's your job to keep this on track somehow when the filmmakers clearly couldn't. Spoiler alert. So, okay, as we already know, Freddy's going to die, but why don't you tell us how that goes down, Brian?
Freddy decides it's time to get out of Springwood, Ohio, as he's killed off all the children except for one. He decides to use his long-lost child, a daughter, to do so. The daughter, Maggie, works as a dream therapist, and it is through this avenue Freddy intends to broaden his killing grounds. We also learn the origin of Freddy's powers as a dream demon and see flashbacks to when he was captured and killed. Freddy is able to get several of the teenagers Maggie works with, but with the help of the fellow therapist, Doc, and a tough girl, Tracy, ooh, real tough, Maggie engages Freddy in the dream world and takes him out in an explosive climax. It's in the title, folks. Freddy is dead.
Yeah, I didn't remember that Freddy's powers were basically demon spermatozoa.
Well, it's got to be something.
My wife first looked at that and said, I didn't realize Freddy was evil tadpoles. And then she's like,
oh, well, she had a better thought than I did.
Well, she said, oh, wait, those aren't tadpoles, are they? Ooh. Those were her exact words. And I remember this one as the one that had Roseanne and Tom Arnold in it. I will admit
sadly,
now,
I did not remember that part.
Oh, yeah, this one's the one littered with cameos. The thing is I was a Roseanne fan. Like, I loved that show. We watched that in my house. It was a big deal. I think this was the point when that show had really kind of tipped its scales and jumped its own shark or whatever.
Well, yeah, because Tom Arnold's in there as well, and Tom Arnold, that's when the show jumped the can because John Goodman was gone.
Right. Tom Arnold has done one good role his entire career, in my opinion, and that was True Lies. That is
I would 100% agree with you.
That someday we'll have to review that
great
one
movie.
Because it is a very fun movie. He gives a great performance in it. He's great up against Arnold. Another person who really can't act but has a ton of presence on the screen for sure, and they are fun in that movie together. But Tom Arnold was in this. I knew that, and I remembered there was a 3D ending to which in my menu it said, which one do you want to watch? And I was like, clearly not that one. And because I wasn't going to dig up for my glasses for it. But I remembered almost nothing else about it. The funny thing about this, and I think we just need to start with the big twist here, okay?
Well, first and foremost, I want to say one other thing about Tom Arnold.
Okay.
I will give him good credit because he did an actually pretty good job in the movie 9 months. Was it 9 months? Something like that.
9.5.
With Hugh Grant.
Oh, 9 months. Yeah, the one where he knocks up Julianne Moore, right? Yeah.
Yeah. That was, I think, a pretty funny movie with Tom Arnold. But anyway.
Yeah. Remember Hugh Grant used to be a thing? Wow.
Well, that's before he got in bed with the transvestite. Got caught. Then he kind of became not a thing anymore.
Yeah, I don't think he's ever, come back. It's not a bad thing.
Not really, no.
Brian, I don't think we can really go through this chronologically. I mean, we could, but that would be kind of boring this time. I just want to talk about the big twist, all right? The big, not the spermatozoa twist, by the way. The big twist that Freddy's got a kid. And they play it off for a third of the movie as if it's this John Doe character that we'll get to.
Which you knew the whole time it wasn't.
Yeah, because the math,
obvious.
the math makes no sense on that at all, right? Like if you start doing the birth math, because we know Freddy was supposedly like killed in the 60s or something, or the early 70s or something like that, based on the timeline that's been set out there, and so it had to be somebody older. And then the flashbacks, it's a girl, and you're like, oh, that's not a victim. That's obviously going to be Maggie, Lisa Zane, Billy Zane's sister. I'm going to tell you, I didn't know the big twist of the movie. When the first time I saw it, and I have never been fooled that Freddy had a son. I was like, no, Freddy would be the kind of twisted person that would have, but he would be a daughter. Like that would be the thing, is that he was this child killer and he killed these little girls and stuff. And they play back though some of that stuff that they really didn't want to get into in that first movie, that Freddy was this child molester and killer, that Wes Craven was afraid he couldn't get into, or they would never get the movie released. They play back into that just a little bit here.
Yeah, and I mean, they tried to keep the whole pretense that the John Doe was the son thing, but it was obvious from the very first flashback when we saw, the little girl running through the yard and everything that goes on there, that it was definitely her. I mean, to me, it was plain and simple, obvious.
So here's the thing, though. Here's the other reason John Doe is not the kid, because he calls it out, and you never get to call yourself out. You can't call your own shot in a horror movie. You can't go, oh, I'm the important thing. I'm the magical MacGuffin. Nope, you're just going to get killed, Looney Tunes style, God. I might add. Which, okay, we're going to get to the three kills that are in this movie and how incredibly lame they all are later. But he may be the worst one of all. We'll get there. But yeah, the big twist is that Freddy's got a kid. And the other thing is they open up on this War Games like map of Springwood, Ohio. It's actually the whole United States, right? And it's Springwood, Ohio, where all of the children are dead and the parents are in a mass psychosis. And they show us that later, and I mean, it is so screwed up, man. Like the parents are teaching school to empty classrooms. Roseanne and Tom are holding carnivals for children that are long since dead. And I'm like, man, Freddy won. When does that happen in a horror series, though, where the horror villain wins? Like, it would be like if Haddonfield finally said, screw it, no more Halloween. Well, they did in part 6, I guess. But if they had done it like beforehand, right? Like, no, we're never doing that again. And if Crystal Lake had actually stayed closed in the Friday the 13th series and stuff like that. It's just like it's like the U.S. just gave up on Springwood, Ohio. Like the state just said, put a wall up and just let them stay, because they're just
put a magical wall up.
I mean, really, yeah, right. Like there's airplanes flying out. There's all kinds of weird stuff going on in this. But what is not happening is birthing. Like there's no.
I do want to. Yeah, for sure. I do want to give the movie a little bit of credit, though, Jay. And the credit is that we finally find out why that house is so important.
Yeah, they retcon
because that was Freddy's house.
Yeah, it was Freddy's house. Don't you think that would have been useful information, like 3 movies ago? But you know what? I mean, it makes sense that they would come up with something for this. He seems to just skulk around that house all the time. Anyway, they've got to find some reason that he's tied to it, and it's not Nancy anymore, and that he was defeated there. That's what they've played it off as up to this point. But now we find out, no, that was Freddy's house. And that's the thing, though, that about this one that messes with me, though, Brian. How did somebody as twisted and messed up as Freddy Krueger ever get it together enough to have, like, a family in the burbs and that kind of house? Like,
well, I mean,
doesn't seem like something he could have done.
Look at some of the notorious serial killers of the world. They had that, man. Ted Bundy.
Okay,
look at him, man.
Ted's
all these people.
One, but that's. I don't even know if I hold that one up.
The BTK killer.
Okay, BTK's probably a better example. Yeah. He had a good life.
It exists. These people have to have another life that they lead, right? They're not all just going out and murdering all the time. They hide that. That's their secret. That's their other personality. So beyond that, they have a normal existence in the world.
Do you know how cool that would have been if they played it right in this movie? Like they totally
played it wrong because number one, Nancy's dad is one of the people who killed him. Why the fuck would he move into his house?
Oh, yeah, talk about covering up the
Right?
evidence, right? Maybe,
Come on.
maybe that's the way to do it, right? You know, they're not going to
So-
search the chief's house.
Exactly.
I guess.
So there's things there, but we do get that tie back, and now we know it's his house, and that's kind of why it's so magical to him. But I do give him credit for that because they put that together. And I do have to say that some of the backstory that we get, I really enjoyed in this movie too. You know, learning about the wife, finding out what he was doing, seeing his underground lair. Where he was building these weapons and toys and torture devices. I thought that was really cool.
It's like an S&M dungeon down there or something. It's like what he had going on is what it looked like.
Kind of.
Yeah.
It's more of a killing thing than a sexual thing, though.
Well, yeah, but again, all of Freddy's implements of destruction are they're digital in nature. And that means you got to use your hands on them. Like it's all about reaching out and touching somebody with the super bad touch, if you will. I mean, that's Freddy. That's what the glove's all about with him. And the thing is like you see these flashbacks, like his daughter basically catches him messing around with it, and he's like, "What are you doing?" You know. And that's the other thing that's it is the creepy part of this. And again, if they had played it right, it could have really worked and been something genuinely scary. That this guy had a family. It could have been like BTK was, you know, that's just normal person. Because at the time we hadn't got him, but now we know. But either way, this normal person is out there, and secretly he's this mass murderer of all time. I mean, we get all kinds of stuff here. They do the flashback of Freddy getting killed by the parents again, and it's actually the second time that's happened, though, Brian. I don't know if you catch your El Rey network on your Sling TV like I do, but they have Freddy's Nightmares on there, basically on demand. You can watch, and you can go pull up the episode where Freddy gets killed by the Rents if you want to see it.
I'll have to check that out because I do get El Rey, obviously, as you know, and I didn't see it in the on-demand section, so I'll have to look.
It's been in there because I went back and watched that episode when I watched this movie because I thought I want to go see the other killing of Freddy. It's not much better done. It's actually kind of all done in shadows, and it's just weird, but it was a sweeps thing, apparently. But it's there, but they do it here, and of course play it off that Freddy makes the Faustian deal with the devil or whatever, I'll take immortal power. And that's the thing, though, is the explanation that Freddy is the slave of these dream demons, because Doc's got this weird art thing going on in his office too, and I'm like, you're strange art. You need to leave that at home, man. That's like workplace violations there. But you know, I mean, it could have been weirder, I guess. But it was getting kind of creepy and Greek and strange there with all that. I just thought, to boil it down to that is, don't you kind of suck away some of the power of Freddy, that he was just this evil monster, to now that he is the dream demon's puppet?
You know, I didn't really think that myself. I didn't mind the whole dream demon piece because he's got to get his power from somewhere. Before it was taking the souls of the children, and that's how he fed himself. But there needed to be kind of an explanation. Is it the best explanation they could come up with? Hell no. It's kind of stupid. And then the fact at the end where they leave his body and search something new, that was kind of lame too, right? But it does explain how he can keep coming back from the fucking dead.
I guess they've got to come up with something or whatever. This is the thing, though. Like the thing that tied Freddy and Jason together, more so than they had a crossover movie together, to me, was that they were your slashers that were avenging some sort of wrong that they felt had been done. Jason avenging his mother getting killed, never mind the fact that she was a mass murderer, and Freddy avenging the fact that he got vigilante killed because he got arrested, went to jail, got out on technicality. We get all those details here. He gets out on that this time, and the mom in the first movie explained that to us. Now we get to see it lived out. And that's the thing, is that Freddy was always just this vengeance thing. That he and Jason shared that together. Whereas like Pinhead and Hellraiser and Michael Myers were just forces of evil. Well, Michael Myers was a druid thing too. That was a weird cult thing. But you know what I mean, right? Like they had their own personal reason. And then to kind of give it this supernatural thing, I don't know. It's an answer. It's just not a real good one. And I sort of would have rather it been a mystery. But I guess if you're going to kill it off, and I mean, again, they thought, yeah, let's kill him off. Let's end it. You got to explain it all once and for all, I suppose.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm glad that they tried to explain a little bit, but again, like I said, it's not the greatest option to go with, and it was kind of really lame.
It's not the best thing at all. Let's talk about our 3 victims here real quick, and then we can talk about our heroines, because we really have 3 of those too, as it were. We've got Carlos, who has a hearing aid because he's deaf in one ear, but then he's got a hearing aid for the one ear, right? Because his mom abused him and hit him in the head and stuck things in his ears, which is
God, I mean, that was gross.
Yeah, I mean, like I have like an ear, like I don't want people touching my, I don't do the whole mess with my ears thing, because that's always kind of mess with me. You got him, you got Spencer Breckenmeyer, playing a stoner before he would go and play a stoner several other times in his life. Clueless, most famously, I guess.
Yes,
but playing I guess the typical rebellious rich kid. He builds pipe bombs. Chekhov's pipe bomb, I called it, in his spare time, and his dad keeps throwing him in rehab facilities or whatever. And he plays video games
really well.
Yeah, plays video games and smokes weed. That's kind of Spencer. And then John Doe, who we open up the movie with. I did like the opening nightmare, like the first 10 minutes of this, or not 10 minutes, the first 5 minutes of it, I'm like, oh man, this is like the precursor to Final Destination movies. I love those. This is cool. The old plane crash and all that. I loved it. And then when it flashed out of the dream, I was like, and there went the good part of the movie.
Well, I like the Wizard of Oz sense of the house falling from the tornado type thing,
It was good up until Freddy became the witch and had that dumb line. That was bad.
That was good. Yeah. How about that tumble? It has to be by far the worst tumble down a hill I've ever seen on a movie.
I don't know if that guy was doing his own stunt, if they got a stunt man who was just bad that day. That was one of the worst looking stunts that I've ever seen in a horror movie. It's a bad fall. Like it doesn't look normal or real, and it feels like it's cut up too. Like he falls 2 feet and then he has to kind of throw himself further. Like it wasn't steep enough, and that's when I realized something too. I was like, look, no offense, Rachel Talalay, but she started out working on the first movie, just working for New Line, and she just kind of worked her way up through the production end of things. And they were like, okay, now you get to be the director. And it's like, you can clearly tell this somebody doesn't know how to direct anything, because if she's seeing that, she's got to go like, we got to get a better hill. And the fact that it was just like, the
never-ending hill.
Yeah, that'll do. And I feel like that was what was uttered many times on the set. Was like, yeah, that'll do. And they just sort of went with it. I mean, especially Robert Englund. He mails it in bad this time. I'm sorry. This is his worst performance as Freddy. There's no heart into it at all.
Okay.
Name a worse one. Okay, name a worse one than the previous 5.
There's some good stuff in here, and we'll get to it.
Okay, I'm curious to hear what you think is good, because I think it's mostly hot garbage. I mean, this movie is a mess. I
do want to say that if someone took a tumble down a never-ending hill the way he did, he'd be dead.
Yes.
And number 2, falling down the hill and landing headfirst on a rock, he'd for sure be freaking dead.
But see, that's the thing. Is he really doing that, or is that a dream?
He wakes up in the other town.
Yeah, it's so strange.
On the rock with blood.
Yeah, it's so weird where we are here. Like, he dreams he's trying to get out of Springwood, but then he can't get out. But Freddy's trying to get out too, and like, there's that mysterious kid that's like, he's gonna come, you're gonna help him, and I'm like,
right?
What happened to the jump rope girls? Where did they go?
They're not in this one.
I know. Yeah, I was looking for them. I was like, where are the jump rope girls? Where's all that? None of that stuff gets played off here at all. So
that was a big bummer, yeah, because they've been in every single movie.
Yeah,
but
really.
Not this one.
Yeah,
we do get the tune.
Yeah, I mean they play that. Oh God, do they use the tune? They play that music constantly. Yes. So,
yeah.
But let's talk about our 3 Vicks though, and how they all die though, because they happen, sort of in succession. Carlos gets killed because Freddy infects his hearing aid, and it becomes like, and then Freddy does like torture gags for hearing, like he amps it up, and he runs his fingernails on the chalkboard, and he drops 1,000 pins.
Oh yes. I think this was a brilliant scene. I'm sorry,
Really?
but to me, having Freddy take the hearing aid out, right, and then come up behind him, dancing around him like, you can't hear me. I thought that was hilarious. As sad as that is on my humanity, to think that it's fucking hilarious for Freddy to dance around a deaf kid because he can't hear him, I did find that humorous. I like the whole idea of giving him the thing and it giving him super hearing, because what's worse, having no hearing or being able to hear every single minute sound? I mean, think of the Buffy episode where she could hear everything.
Right.
That would drive you nuts.
It did.
So,
yeah. So
maybe the no hearing's better. Question, though, is the point of order on this. He only has one hearing aid.
Right.
So he should be able to hear out of his other ear. Right?
No, they play out that they actually drop a line that he's completely deaf in the other ear.
And they only got one.
And they couldn't repair it because his mom had damaged it so much. I mean, they're trying to play the part 3 thing again here with the kids and the halfway therapy deal. But they're trying to go back to part 3 with that callback. There's just not enough attention paid to these people because they're not completely introduced in the scene of their death, but they might as well have been. Like these 3 people that die, John Doe lasts the longest, and Carlos and Spencer are just set up to be killed.
Right.
And
he lasts the longest because he's the one who has to bring her back. Right.
Right. Yeah. He uses her. Yeah.
Sadly, I wrote. I really enjoyed that scene. That whole sequence. And I wrote in my notes that sadly Freddy dancing behind the deaf kid is hilarious and nails on the chalkboard is awesome.
Okay.
Because that drives my wife nuts. She's a teacher.
Right.
So they don't have chalkboards anymore for that specific reason.
I was going to say, I think if you watch this now, if you're under the age of 25 and you watch this movie, I wonder if you even have any idea what the joke is there. Right. Because you've grown up in the whiteboard era. I guess if it squeaked to death, because the stamp dry erase markers could do that. But you know what? It would have worked. The problem for me is, and this is going to be the complaint about the Freddy kills in this movie for me, is that, again, Robert Englund is sort of phoning it in, and it goes on about 4 beats too long. It's like, got it. You're torturing him with I got it. We're going to water drops. I got it. It's like it just goes on and on and on. And finally it goes to the point where he can take him out. But Freddy, is not actively he's not slashing anybody in this one. He's just doing things that cause them to die. It's very, I don't know. It was different than what I've seen before. I mean, it's not like we haven't seen Freddy do this sort of stuff before, use environment to kill people. I mean, think about Greta choking to death.
The comic book one.
Yeah,
there's other ones.
Yeah, but the comic book one though was neat. There was something cool about that. This seems like a joke that should have happened 2 movies ago. Well,
I don't know. I liked it, and I also will admit that I like Spencer's death as well.
Okay, let's talk about old Spencer here. Okay, so he tokes up a good one, right? He gets a good burn on, right? And then
the heater's on.
And then 8-bit Nintendo world, but he becomes a part of it, right? Mm-hmm. And he gets Freddy's chasing him with a towel. He's slashing at him, and all I can think about is, remember how cool it was when Freddy controlled Philip like he was a puppet in Part 3 and threw him off the building? Yeah, this is not that cool. He gets the friggin' power glove, the Nintendo power glove. Oh, that is so lame. It's lame. No, it's a joke. No. Okay.
Of course it's a joke. It's meant to be a joke, and I think it's hilarious.
Okay, go ahead and defend it then, because I think it was lame.
No, I mean, this is 1991. I don't know if Super NES has even been released yet. I'd have to look that up on the wiki. But we had 8-bit systems. That's what we had. So the graphics are right on par with that type of thing. He's got basically he's playing with an Atari, right? That's kind of the Atari joystick that he's got going on. I liked it. I thought it was cool. I think it's now the real life portion of it's kind of lame, where the Spencer's bouncing around back and forth. That was dumb.
Thank you. That is horrible. Yes,
it was. Yes. However, the game parts are hilarious. I love Freddy power-up. And the power glove was brilliant because the power glove's probably fairly new at that time. And it just, to fit that in, I thought was great.
It is an odd piece of product placement. I don't even know if it was like intentional or if it was just one of those, let's be reverential to something that the kids are into nowadays and put this in the movie. I don't know. I just thought, again, like the Carlos death, it was just cheesy. And this the thing is, like, Freddy's been cheesy for a couple movies now, so that's not the new part of it. I was okay with him wanting to crack the jokes and be goofy and things like that. But like by 1991, the Power Glove wasn't even a thing anymore, though. Like
Power Glove was released in '89.
Yeah, they discontinued it in 1990. So I mean, like it wasn't that big of a deal.
Super NES came out in 1991, so right about the same time.
Right. I mean, I get the idea of wanting to reference the video game thing. I get that, and I'm with you. The actual part in the game is kind of cool because Spencer like beats the crap out of his video game dad and stuff, which is kind of
with the yeah.
I'm like, that's good. That's the best therapy Spencer's gotten in all these years. It's just a little anger aggression therapy. Maybe that's what he needed all this time, but clearly he keeps doing that. But of course, he can't beat up Freddy because Freddy overpowers him and gets but the thing is Robert Englund keeps dropping these like great graphics lines, like he's high too, and they do the thing where they haven't done as much of before, and I wish they hadn't done it here. Show us what's happening in the real world, because what happens in the real world just looks insane. It looks like Spencer's hopping around and then he falls through the floor.
Yeah, that was pretty dumb.
Which I guess we've always wondered, like, what does it look like for everybody else to see, Freddy getting
Well, we've seen it a couple times in other movies.
Yeah.
We saw the in the very first one.
Right.
When is it Tina or whatever is getting dragged across the ceiling in her death. I mean, so yeah, I mean, they show things like that. So the whole concept of the bouncing was pretty stupid.
See, and you just brought up something that reminds me. This used to be something that was really menacing. When Freddy got you and finally got you in his sights to kill you, it was scary. It was freaky. It was weird. Now it's hilarious. Now it's kind of stupid. And I just feel like there's something lost in all of this, as this is overtly trying to be comedic now. As to where before, when it was funny, it was just sort of a byproduct of the way things went. This is now deliberately concocted trying to be funny, and the joke just wears thin too quick for me. I miss Freddy being a little more menacing, I guess.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I get that. But he hasn't been that menacing for a while, so it kind of fits every couple they're kind of a comedy more so than a horror film,
I guess. I don't know. I felt like the last one...
The last one was different, right?
The last one was different, and there was some... I mean, again, we talked about the subtext of the movie and stuff, that there was some dark stuff going on in there. I thought that was pretty good. Four tried to be a little lighter, but they was still pretty messed up. I mean, there was...
Maybe because of the heavy material in this one, with the whole backstory, they wanted to lighten things up. I don't know.
I don't know. That's a good guess. This is as good a guess as anything else because I have no idea. Like there's not a lot of extra features on Freddy's death, so I don't know. I mean, there's just not a lot of stuff. But yeah, Spencer plays with power and weed and gets thrown through the floor, and that's him. So
I do want to say though, you said it's a cameo-filled one. We get Johnny Depp in his second Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah, let's talk about that. The riff on the this is your brain on drugs commercials, right? Which the irony of Johnny Depp doing one of those commercials, by the way, that's not lost on me.
Well, he did one back in the day. So.
Yes, and I do think it's funny. So to think about that, because I was probably hiring a kite when he did it. So, but I like that they got him to do that. I mean, you have people show up at other places too. There's all sorts of cameos throughout here, but Johnny Depp makes that little cameo appearance, which is a little out there, but it's that joke actually I did laugh at. I was like, well, okay, that's not Freddy's worst line in this movie. I can go with that. That's okay. But Spencer's death, not so great. Now, John John Doe's death, I love how he tricks him, and this is where they do the reveal about, it's not a boy, it's a girl. I have a daughter, and he basically cuts his parachute in his dream so that he falls to his death. The part of it that I hate is that Freddy wheels out a bed of spikes like Wile E. Coyote for him to fall on.
Yeah.
Like, that was kind of stupid. But the falling death, like falling dreams, everybody has those, man. Like, they jolt me. Everybody. I can get that. Everybody can relate to that. But I don't know. I just, again, it's all these things are played up for laughs and they go on just a little long. Though John Doe's doesn't. I will say that John Doe's death is the one that I feel like doesn't go on too long and actually works because it doesn't go on so long.
Yeah, that was a very quick one. And, of course, the whole theme for John Doe here is the fact that he's been falling all the time. Like, right? This whole movie, he's falling from a house, falling from an airplane, falling from everything. And then, how does he die? He gets cut off on a parachute and falls to his death.
Right, exactly. Like, that's...
So...
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. It's just, like I said, that was the one that I'll give the pass to. I thought it was okay. That's the funny thing, though. There's 3 kills in this movie, and I'm like, there were at least 2 other pieces of dead meat here. Like, I'm sorry. I like Yafet Koto, but there's no reason Doc needs to live. He tells everything you need to know in 2 scenes about him. You can kill him. And why does Tracy, the tough girl kickboxer, get to live? What purpose does she serve?
Great question. That's a great question because she doesn't do a whole lot in this whole movie anyway, other than try to be a badass chick. And let's just face it, no.
It's kind of like Yvonne last time. I don't know how she lived either, but she did. I guess because Lisa needed a babysitter, so or whatever. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's how that had to go. But I mean, really, I don't know how Tracy got to live. Yeah, she's a lame character. Can we just say it? I didn't care.
Absolutely.
I hated her. I thought she was terrible. Lisa, the therapist, also Freddy's daughter, maybe the worst actress I've seen in the series so far. That's saying something with Lisa Zane. That's a high bar, I know. But I think she may give the most dead-eyed, boring performance of anybody in this film. If Robert Englund is mailing it in, I don't think she ever knew where the postcards and the stamps were. I mean, she seems to be someone who is reading her lines as like they're being fed to her. Like, I don't get a sense at all that she had any idea what kind of movie she was in.
I would agree with you on that. It was not very good, and it wasn't very like believable. Like, I couldn't buy the fact that she was working in this place as a dream therapist, right? She seemed to not know what she was talking about. She seemed like she always had to rely on Doc. I don't know, maybe she wasn't a dream therapist. Maybe she was just someone who worked there and brought people in and checked them in. I don't even know.
No, she's like part of the therapy team. She's just not the full licensed psychotherapist that I guess Doc is or whatever. But she would be like what Nancy was in part 3. I will say the one credit I will give this movie, Brian, because I am trashing it a little bit, and it's pretty obvious that I didn't care for it. But I did like the idea of Springwood as this childless nightmare town. Basically, like, I did like the exploration of that. Now, it's played off too much for silliness and laughs, but I did like that concept and that idea. That would have been a fun place to play around in and have a movie in, I thought. And I didn't think they used that to its fullest effect.
No, they really didn't. And all they basically did was say that Freddy was basically trapped there. I did like the whole can't get out of town once you're in it thing, where they seemed like they kept going in circles and whatnot. But
they've done that loop before, and I liked that they played with that again, that they did catch him in the loop. That was nice. But again, it's like, oh, that's a great idea. Go with that. Don't spend time with Freddy screwing around with a chalkboard or a power glove.
Yeah, okay, we disagree there, but that's okay.
You're an easy lay for the power glove. Let's just say it.
Hells bells! I never even owned a power glove. But
Neither
anyway.
did I. I did have the power mat though. That thing that was a workout. I'm gonna tell you. So.
Well, they keep it up. You got the Wii boards and everything else. So
yeah,
it's obviously a hit. We're getting kind of towards the end here where everything kind of gets the big reveal. What did you think of the big flashback where we got to see, the dungeon area? We got to see the wife come out screaming in horror, saying, "I won't tell anyone," and then him killing her.
I thought that was great, and the fact that it's played from the point of view of the kid makes it even more terrifying. I was like, finally, this movie figured out how to do something terrifying. If only they could have stuck with that, it would have been a great ending, because the whole thing is that Freddy has become this sympathetic thing in pop culture. Like the producers are acutely aware of that. Okay, the fact that people love the serial killer and they feel kind of weird about that. Like they'll talk about it, that they all felt like that's not what the point was. So they had to come up with some way to make him evil and menacing again in a way that they felt like they could get people to turn on him.
Yeah.
Right? And this is a great way to do that. I thought it was brilliant for that. And it only lasts like 5 minutes. And that's the thing that kills me. It's like it's 5 minutes and they could have made the whole thing work around that, and then they go back to Cheeseville.
Well, I still think that they could have made a whole backstory movie on Freddy.
Oh, I agree. Look, that
would be great.
In the next one in one of the next ones we review, we've got New Nightmare, and then we've got the remake. My hope for the remake was totally built around the idea of like, well, nowadays you can do all this stuff. So I want the dark backstory. I want it to be net. You shouldn't want to dress up like Freddy after seeing it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I want, and we'll talk about what we get when we get there. But I felt like this is that idea. They sort of put it out there. It's like, man, that looks interesting. And I'll say this, I've dinged on Robert Englund the whole time for mailing it in. I do think this is the part of the movie he was interested in.
Yeah,
because he clearly has a different energy when he's playing live Fred Krueger versus Freddy the Dream Demon.
I agree.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed the whole sequence and the whole thing that Mommy had to what do you say? Mommy had to pay for what she did or whatever. What was it? Mommy had to take her medicine. What was his line?
Yeah, something like that. I can't remember it exactly. But yeah, it's one of those things that like only a sadistic killer abuser would say.
Yeah, he's justifying
look
what he did. Yeah,
look what you made me do to you. Like one of those, and it's like, oh man, yeah. But that, you know what? That's what we should want. Like I should want to not want Freddy to win anymore.
Absolutely.
Like I've got to root. The problem is that I can't root for Lisa or any of her people because they don't care. I don't care about them. They're not interesting.
Well,
and the fact that she becomes his daughter, who cares?
Well, and the thing is that they tease the fact that here she is going to put on this glove and become her dad, right? And that just doesn't happen. I was like, that's how it should have gone. She should have suddenly put the glove on, released Freddy Krueger, killed him off, and become the next Freddy Krueger. And unfortunately, it's just kill him with his own knives and be done.
Done it, Jamie, at the end of Halloween 4, then, right? That's
exactly, right.
You know what? I don't disagree that would have been a better idea than what they do.
Well, they could have kept the franchise going if they really wanted to, but...
Well, that's the thing. They didn't. They wanted to kill it. So the way they decided to kill it is that can we talk about the 3D, like the fact that they work it in as part of the plot? Okay.
Yes.
When you see a character put these glasses on, you put yours on too. Okay. That you got to have the cue for the audience. So fine. But like in the dream, these can be whatever you want them to be. And I'm like, oh God, who wrote this? A sixth grader?
Oh, where have we seen that before?
I know, right? I was like, oh well, I know where they ripped that off from now, and did it much better, I might add.
Yeah.
But yeah, this was. Let's just call it, man. It's awful, right?
It looks so bad in 2D.
It's what they spent the money on.
And it looks even worse in 3D.
I know, yeah. Like this is like usually the stuff that's supposed to be 3D, you watch it in 2D, and you do miss something. That's the point. But when you watch it in 3D and it's actually worse,
there's so many things they could have done. In 3D, the knives coming at you. Just so many things. And they did that. They put big, ugly sperm at us.
I know, and I get some throwing stars sort of coming at me at one time. I'm like, is there anything more late 80s, early 90s than that? You know, so the fake ninja weapons and then a pipe bomb. And that's the thing is, like, Lisa stabs Freddy with his own glove, and I'm like, we've seen that before. Like Nancy did that to him, right? Like, that should be the thing, is that you got to stab him, like, in the head with it or something like that. You know, one of those things. But I love how they're like, no, that's not enough. And she plants that bomb on him to blow him up, to blow him to bits. And the problem, though, is Freddy doesn't even get a good last line. Kids. That's his whole last, like, that's it? I'm like, that's terrible.
All right, he dies with that. Yeah, famous last words. Yeah, it was pretty sad. Pretty bad. And then, of course, the demons somehow escape.
Well, of course, because, I mean, you can't destroy those. They're eternal, so they just are like, we got to go find somebody else now.
My
so
body is finally gone.
Yeah, they swim off into... That's what my wife asked. She's like, so where did those go? Is that what happens in Freddy vs. Jason? I was like, not really. I was like, no. I said, really. Probably in one of the 50 scripts that were written for that movie, it's in there, but not in the one we see.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the 3D showdown in the dream world. And then only punctuated by the fact that Lisa's got to go, Freddy's dead. And then we get that crappy Alice Cooper song, who, by the way, that's his second appearance. Now, he does have a flashback. It's Freddy's dad. You know, I'm like, well, I guess Freddy's dad would be Alice Cooper. So now he's been in the Jason movie and a movie, and we get that like montage of Freddy's greatest kills at the end, right? Which I don't think there are any from part 2. Yeah, you know what? I've watched it before. I didn't watch it this time. I'm not gonna lie. I've seen it before, so it's not that big a deal.
Yeah.
I just came out of it like underwhelmed. I think just sort of my feeling about it. I was just like, "That's it, huh?" You know, I was like, "Well, I made it to the end, yay!" You know, and I did a Nightmare on Elm Street marathon once by myself before I knew we were going to review it and stuff. I had done this where I watched all 6 of them, and I remember coming up to the 6th one and watching it and being like, I'm glad there's some more, because if they had ended on that, I mean, what a bummer. Just so much untapped potential in this is the thing, Brian. Like, it's not that it's miserably and it's fun for that, and it's not that it's, you know, wacky do like, you know, part 2 or anything like that. It's just that it's like almost good, and then it just craps out. Like, that's how I feel about this whole film. If I had to sum it up, that's exactly how I feel about it.
Well, Jay, why don't you go ahead and give us your popcorn rating then on this movie?
Yeah, might as well, right? I guess we are at that point. But yeah, small popcorn, man. I mean, there's some laughs, I guess. There's a couple that there's that 5 minutes again that I think is like, oh, there's that movie. It's hidden in here. It's this dark, great thing here, but they just never realize it. It's just totally unrealized potential all the way. So small popcorn, and by far my least favorite of the series.
I'm going to say that it's also my least favorite of the series, but I didn't hate it. That's the thing. I didn't hate this movie. I got a kick out of, like I said, I got a kick out of some of those kills. I sadly think that torturing the deaf guy was funny, and maybe I need to rethink my life. But
I think you need to seek some therapy from Doc, man, or something.
But I do agree. This is a small popcorn. If I had to pick any Freddy movie to watch, this would be the last one I pick, and I probably wouldn't pick it. I'd probably go find something else. So I'm going to join you on the small popcorn and just say, you know, it's worth watching one time, throw it away, don't bother again.
Yeah, I don't think I would ever recommend anyone to see this. Like, even if they were super Freddy fans, like, I don't think there's enough here to grab you at all for this movie.
Well, I do think that the back scenes and the backstory is worth seeing. If you can kind of like find a mashup of just those, I think those are cool and worth seeing, but otherwise I agree.
Yeah, it's just not worth it. And you know, we're at the end of the series proper, so I do want to ask you, give me your ranking of the 6 Nightmare on Elm Street films. How would you rank them in order?
Oh gosh. Now I gotta rack my brain here. I would go with 1 is the best, easily. Even with the shitty acting that's in there, it's by far the best story. I mean, if without a good number 1, what's the point of going to a number 2, right? Then I would go probably with number 4, then 3, then 5, then 2, then 6.
Okay, I'll echo you. The first one is the classic one. It's the best one. And then I would say 3, 4, 5, 2, and 6. And I don't hate 2. I just think it's kind of the outlier.
It doesn't fit everything else, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's really hardly anything they hang on to from it. But the other ones, like 3, 4, and 5 are kind of their own little trilogy in there. Like if you want to say it, so they sort of fit together, and I think they work kind of in that succession. 6 is by far the lowest one, like the worst one of all of these, and I'm glad we agree on that at least. So that at least you can admit that it's only for your own sick, twisted desires that you like this movie, watching poor dead people be punished. I didn't know this about you. All these years of podcasting with you, now I learned something new.
I'm a sick bastard.
Well, we are at the end of that, but we're not done with Freddy yet, man. We got 2 more Freddy movies proper. We got Wes Craven's New Nightmare, which is its own thing, and then we've got the remake that came out in 2010, and then you and I are teaming back up with Ron to cover Freddy versus Jason at the end of October here. So thanks again for joining us, folks, on Filmstrip. Of course, you can find all of our episodes on our iTunes feed, also on our website, continuousplaypodcast.com/movies. Hook up with us on Facebook, Twitter. Let us know what you think of the show. We appreciate your support. Until next time, for Brian, I'm Jay. Thank you for listening to Filmstrip.
Thank you for listening to Filmstrip. You can find more episodes on our website, continuousplaypodcast.com/movies. Please leave us a positive review on iTunes and link up with us on Facebook. The Filmstrip theme music is produced and performed by Frozen Lake 121.